We're talking to John-Angus from the Trews. Welcome, sir.
Oh, good to be back at Access Magazine.
So you are going to be a part of the Journey to the Junos, sponsored by Gibson.
Yes.
Tell us about that. Is this the first time you've done it? This is the second year that's actually happening, right?
It's our first time doing it. We have a relationship with Gibson that goes back, um, many years, probably 3 or 4 years that I've been involved with Gibson either in New York or in Canada with Tina Simkin, and they put together this great project in concert with Long and McQuaid and Karis to sort of hype the Junos, hype Long and McQuaid, hype Gibson, and I guess hype the band as well. We're fortunate enough to get a couple of nominations this year at the Junos, so the timing, everything worked, and we were starting a West Coast tour around that time, so we had to get out there, and it just all came together, good synchronicity, and here we are starting it tonight.
So you have two nominations this year. Have you been nominated before?
Twice before.
Have you noticed a specific impact on either your visibility or your ability to get booked, or what is the, what do you get out of a Juno nomination or a win, do you think?
We've yet to win, so I can't comment on the win.
All right.
What I can tell you is that, when something like this happens, like a nomination, all of a sudden the phone starts to ring for interviews, and I guess that has a certain impact on visibility. We're lucky enough to have a pretty solid fan base that we can rely on, I think, regardless of current nominations and single performance. Hopefully, anyway, that's the way we feel. We feel a real strong connection to our fan base. But when something like this happens, when the nominations pour in, and we had like the 2 for the Junos come in at the same time as the 4 for the Indies, of which we picked up 2.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so it's one of those things that, I guess it increases visibility, and it kind of puts the band, reintroduces the band to the fringe public who aren't necessarily following your every move. So yeah, it's a nice little boost.
Now you've gone from major label, next hopeful, to independent, but you're still doing well. You're still getting songs on radio. You're still getting people attending your shows and whatnot. How has the change from major label to independent been for you? Is it a traumatic thing?
Well, we've always been independent, actually. Even with Sony, even though I think Sony really prioritized Den of Thieves, our second record, because of the success of our first record. But I mean, we were always with Bumstead. We always had a sort of intermediary label, which is our manager's label, and he's always sort of mediated between our wants and the wants of a major label. And in that sense, our situation hasn't changed.
Okay.
We've just changed. We got off Sony and sort of reevaluated for a while. Like it was a relatively amicable thing. They renewed to have us do the record, and we just couldn't really figure it out. So we opted to get out, and we sort of reprioritized and rearranged a few things and decided that the best thing for us was probably to still have the distribution of a major label. So we're currently being distributed by Universal Canada.
Right.
And I think what happens is, like, when you're new and like you said, you're hyped, like you feel like a priority and everything else. And then when you're not so much old news, but you've been introduced and people are somewhat familiar with you, then I think it comes time to sort of reevaluate what it is that your band brings to the table, what makes you unique, and what makes it worth coming back to, and that's going to be a struggle as long as we want to stay in the game. And I thought with this record we sort of broached that for the first time, because our first record was surprise hit, and then the second record was like a major label push, and then it's like, okay, well, we're going to stick around. What do we offer? What is it that the Trews do that nobody else can do, that keep people buying the records, keep people coming to the shows? So that's the kind of thing. I don't think that stops. I think U2 are still doing that with every record they put out, saying, okay, what do we do now? So it's like, no, I don't think that'll ever stop. I hope it doesn't. It's what keeps the art innovative and fresh.
Has the idea of what the band is changed when you face those sort of challenges?
Yeah, I think, as you get a little bit older and maybe your sense of, like, I think Colin faced maybe a little bit of social responsibility, maybe a little bit of social responsibility, but I think he kind of felt like people wanted to hear what he had to say about maybe heavier topics than just his ex-girlfriend, which was like fodder for the whole second record.
Fair enough.
So that came up with No Time for Later, a lot of that, and people, that's a very divisive area to tread in, because with songs like Gun Control, it's like 50% of people hated it and 50% of them loved it. When you start hanging yourself out there like that, you're going to divide people, but it's, it helps people know who you are, which helps further define you and chisel out your little space in the industry that hopefully only you do.
Now, obviously, the quote-unquote revenue streams of the major label record industry have changed significantly over the last few years. But, filling venues, selling T-shirts, etc., has never been a problem for you guys. You're a very popular touring act. Has that come home more and more over the last few years as fewer people buy CDs and as many people, I would say, probably go to see gigs, including the Trews?
Yeah. I would say, well, we've never seen $1 from record sales.
Oh, okay,
believe it
fair.
or not. And we've sold quite a few records, but I can't say we've ever seen $1, and it's because the money spent promoting, the money spent making has never really quite matched up, so we've always been a band that's relied on. I mean, I think if we were like a 90s band who had like multi-platinum records and like felt that taste of that money and then had it taken away from us, we'd be a lot more bitter about it than we are. But to us, it's always been a reality of like, we make our money off the road, we make our money off merch, we make our money off the odd corporate gig, But it's mostly about touring for us. It's always that's our bread and butter. So I don't think that'll ever change. And like you said, I think it might be harder for some bands that have, or like I said earlier, and like you were getting at, people are going to shows more and seeing less money from CDs. And I don't think it's as shocking for us because we've never really known any different.
And how do you survive a Canadian winter tour? Luckily, you're touring now across the country with the Journey to the Junos and Gibson.
Yeah.
After winter.
I gotta say, I'm glad the winter's winding down. And just give us another second. Huh? Just give us one more second. All right.
And what would be your tip for any young band touring across Canada in the dead of winter?
Oh God. Well, stay on the road, number one. Get some good tires. Keep it between the ditches at all costs. Cold effects, oil of oregano, water. You drink as much water as you do booze, if you can remember that. That can be, you'd be peeing all the time, and your driver will be pissed at you, but them's the breaks. And stay warm, and what else? I don't know. That's it.
All right.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
All right.